So one of the questions I get asked the most often, like off the rip these days, is what's your take on AI? Do you use it? Are you scared it's going to take your job? How do you feel about it? If you're new here, my name is Marcus. I am a professional composer. I write for film and TV. I scored Apple TV's Lady in the Lake, NBC Universal's Home for Jesus. I've written live strings for Beyonce. Me and my own fusion soul orchestra recorded some strings on the most recent Andra Day album. I do all these things, right? So that's the context in which people are asking me. They know that I'm a music professional. They know I make my living doing this, and they know I'm like up on technology for the most part. So like, what's my take on AI? I'm just going to jump in and rip the Band-Aid and say that I am not a fan. If you know me personally already, then like, that's not going to surprise you. No one has given me a good use case for music yet. Like, no one's given me an example of something where to be like, oh, that makes sense. Like when you talk about AI solving like huge math equations or helping like crack the code on like diseases and stuff, those use cases make sense to me. But with music or any creative based thing, it just hasn't quite made sense to me yet. For example, let me say like the bulk of my income comes from scoring film and TV, right? And writing that music. But like the bulk of my work is not doing that. The bulk of my work is like taking the meetings. It's, talking with the director, making sure your team feels heard, coordinating with musicians, talking to your lawyer, talking to your agent. Like there is so much overhead admin task besides writing the music. And so for me, it's like, if I have this AI robot write my music, what am I trying to do? Like I've never once said to myself, man, I wish somebody would write this music so I could have more time to do these meetings. You know what I'm saying? Like I to answer these emails. Like I don't really understand what the use case for is there. I love writing music. We don't make art because we have to. We make art because we get to. And that's the thing that I can't really understand. And if I'm being honest, I feel like the people who are advocating for this in art are kind of missing the point of art. Like I want to hear a human being expressing something, and I want to hear someone's voice in the music. I feel like the people who advocate this are operating under the false assumption that the goal of art is to have like the maximum number of arts in the world. And that's just also not true. And this is before even getting into like all of like the ethical things. Like there's been huge things about AI models being trained on copyright material that the copyright owners aren't compensated for. There are all of these concerns about what it's doing to the environment. If this is a video that you're watching that you are interested in, I'm sure that like you've at least heard of some of those conversations. So I'm going to let more qualified, more knowledgeable experts speak on those documented concerns, which I share. But a big concern I have that I don't feel like I've saw enough people talking about is that like the danger of outsourcing your thinking. And what do I mean by that? Like a lot of people are talking about they use AI to come up with their ideas for their art, or, whether their story, if they're a writer, whatever it is, to generate these ideas or to flesh out into a draft, whatever it is. And my thing is, I think that's really dangerous and a really slippery slope in the long term, because it's very well documented that like when we do outsource our thinking, we lose the ability to do this. And I'm going to give you a really clear example that it's really easy to see what I'm saying. If you are my age or older, you saw your parents, if you were going to go on a road trip, they had to pull out this folded up piece of paper and unfold this big thing to have what is called a map. And if you are a young kid, a map was an illustrated version of all of the major streets from your area to wherever you're trying to go. If you're trying to go to a different state or something, you might have had to get like another map once you cross the state lines. And so if they wanted to make a road trip, what you would have to do is you'd have to like study this for a while. You'd have to like come up with what's the best plan for me to get there with all the considerations I have, time, gas, budget, all of these things. You'd have to remember things. You'd have to do a lot of like thinking. But then when I got to college, we had something else called MapQuest. And MapQuest removed one layer of that. And what that looked like is like before you would drive somewhere, you would print out like something that said step-by-step directions. It would say, you know, kind of like what the GPS says to you in real time now, but it would just say, but you just have it like printed out as a piece of paper step by step. But then, like I said, now we have GPS. I can't even go like a mile and a half without using my GPS. I'm not even checking my mail without GPS, basically, these days. Like, we don't have the ability to do that. I can almost guarantee if you put a map in front of a young person, or even those same older people who used to do it then, you know, like I said, even me, like I'm someone who like started driving in the MapQuest time. I couldn't even do it now, I bet. Like, it would really take a lot. And we societally have lost the ability to do that. Now apply that to art and think about what that means. Like, think about what happens if you're not able to come up with those ideas, you're not able to like expand on them, flesh them out. You know what I mean? I think those are muscles that can atrophy and ultimately we lose them completely. And that's before even getting into like so far the ideas that AI is coming up with, stealing, just aren't very good. At least they're not creative. Like, from my understanding so far, AI doesn't have the ability to be creative. And really what I'll say in closing, just to kind of sum it all up, is that like I think about like why I got into music. I started making beats when I was 13 and I just loved this. It was like I spent all day, every day doing this, any chance I could get. When I got home from school, when I got up in the morning, it was my diary. At the beginning, I didn't even share the music with anyone else. It was just about like expressing what was on my heart, what was, you know, sitting with me that I needed to get out. And I bet a lot of you have the same experience with whatever your art may be. And I just imagine like going back to that kid and saying like, hey, they just came out with this new software that can like write all your music for you. He would just be like, why would I ever do that? Like, why would I ever, like, don't you want to make art? And that's kind of what I'm saying to you all. It's like, don't you want to make art? Do you disagree? Do you agree? Do you have any experience? I want to be very clear that like, I don't think AI is going anywhere. I think it's here to stay. I don't think this is a phase. You know, if I'm being really honest, a lot of these people who work in art and music have ghostwriters, have people doing this anyway. So like for them in that situation, it's not a big leap to be like, oh, I was paying this guy to write my stuff. This program can do it for free. Oh, well. So what are your feelings on this? Educate me. I'm not the most educated on AI, and right now I'm just not really interested in being. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching.